Happy Sunday. I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm still concussed. And one of the things I truly didn't understand about a concussion, because that's the first time I've had one that I'm aware of, is the impact it has on your short-term memory. So I had a whole bunch of news, and I can't remember any of it other than Emily Sorensen got a promotion at work. Yay, Emily! Congratulations. I should have written it all down. I know I should have, but when I was scrolling through Facebook, I'm like, oh, of course I'll remember this. And it has nothing to do with how important the news is. It has to do with how my brain works right now. So I apologize for that. If you had a weekly win, feel free to throw it in the comment because I know there's a lot of good news for people this week. As for questions, we didn't really have any. There was comments. Someone left a comment saying, I hope things are going better for you this week. Thank you for all you do for us and especially for tomorrow's workout and maintain. I love 10K pace. Bet that was Karen. Might not have been. That's fine. I love that comment. Thank you. I love 10K pace too. I love that you guys are liking these workouts for the month. And, you know, my favorite is and will always be Savasana. So my deep thought for the night comes from the wild week that I've had. Had friends, if you followed me on Facebook, you might have seen I had friends that decided to surprise us. They were visiting states from China. And the guy is one of my closest friends from when I lived in Hong Kong. Married a lovely woman. They have 4 kids total. They came over here for business and some family. And they didn't tell us they were coming. So at the end of it, got 4 kids. You have no idea if you're going to be able to keep an itinerary. And they didn't want to disappoint us. So they show up. We're having a great time. And then boom, the mom finds out she's got COVID. And they're like, oh, you can't take these kids home alone. We need a nanny. When I listened to them calling the nannies and the rates that they were going to have to pay to have somebody 24/7 for 72 hours, it's like $5,000. I'm like, I'll do it for half that. And next thing you know, I'm doing a U-turn to Hong Kong, which I've never done. Now, a U-turn is a flight where you don't get a hotel. You usually people from California are talking about doing that in Vegas, where they drive out, party all night, don't go to sleep, then turn around and come right back. If it sounds stupid, it's because it is. Don't recommend it. But I figured I'd be so jet lagged. Why not? So here's the point that I wanted to make. At the beginning of this year, I talked about how this would be our first normal year. And in a lot of ways, it has been. And I know a lot of you are not where you want to be yet, and you're a little frustrated because you thought you'd be back by now, or you wanted to be back by now, and you haven't been able to get in your routine because so much of this year felt so normal and things seemed so normal. Like COVID is behind us and the pandemic's behind us, or COVID is now the flu. Not this, I don't want to get it, but not, the global pandemic scare that we had before. But this week for me was the big reminder in many ways that things are not normal yet, which makes me feel a whole lot better about where fitness protection is at since we're so much smaller. But also gives me a lot more perspective on my own body and things too. It's hard living in a body that doesn't do what you want it to do. It's hard living in a body that does not feel the way you want it to feel. This is probably, again, I've said this before, but this is the hardest road back I've ever had to take. And it feels like a gut punch every time I want to get up and move, and I can't just yet. So knowing that some of you are right there, this is the perspective I wanted to talk about. When I got to Hong Kong is where I lived for 4.5 years. And the 3 other years that I was in Tokyo working, I was in Hong Kong a lot for business. So I usually say I was there for 7 years because it felt like I was there that often. There's a street that's really popular, Diaguilar Street, which then turns into Lan Kwai Fong, which meant Orchid Road. It used to be a wet market that somehow in the 1980s turned into like a row of frat houses. And it's hard to explain to someone who's never seen it, but take like any frat house movie, and instead of frat houses, they're bars, stack them 3 on top of each other, cram them into a little road that's not even 1/10 of a mile long. And you've got expats, white people, not locals, spilling into the road. Like cars can't drive up this super steep street. It is just packed and it's amazing. And you walk in and people are like, hey, people you don't know are handing you drinks, handing you Jello shots. And it's a great time. It is I cannot think of a better place to be in your early 20s than what Hong Kong used to be. when I met up with my friend, this time in Hong Kong, fully expecting not to sleep. Not that I'd be drinking all night. Obviously I can't, but it was a ghost town. He was like, I don't think you're ready for this. I don't think you understand. I told you it had changed, but everything has changed. And I won't get into the confluence of factors that all kind of came together to change Hong Kong, but it was empty. The streets were empty. The bars were shut. And this was like at 11 o'clock. Lang Kwai Fong didn't shut until 4 a.m. And then everybody would just turn around and go to Wan Chai. Wan Chai doesn't exist. And for me, when everything else, when I was flying in, the lights and the scenery hadn't changed, the way I felt about it hadn't changed, but it's different. And that was such a stark reminder of how different it was. I was processing this, just talking about it with people, being like, I don't know. Because so many of my friends who hadn't seen it because they left before the pandemic or during the pandemic and haven't seen it since, it was a really sobering, I've reconnected with a bunch of people talking about like, man, as much as I think things are going back to normal, some things never will. And then later I was talking with Coach Hannukah, who's going to be traveling a little bit this week. She's going to New York. And I was like, oh, you got to do this race and you've got to do this race. These were my two favorite races in New York City. And we look on the calendar and New York Roadrunners doesn't host these races anymore. Hasn't since 2019. I guess the races that time of year weren't money makers, or the financial constraints, they've had to shut down a lot of races. And again, a really stark reminder that the pandemic changed everything. So at the beginning of what I thought would be our first normal year, in a year that did feel normal, it has been these two big reminders that normal might not come back, which doesn't mean that you will never again be who you once were or never again run the way you once did. But in those moments when you're feeling bad about yourself, when you're feeling like you're a ghost town, it's a good reminder that the world has not totally picked up where it left off. Things are not normal for everyone yet. We're all kind of in this one together, and you are by no means behind. No matter how frustrated you are, how you feel about your body, how you feel about your efforts, how you feel, period. Whatever you feel is valid, but that comparison of I'm behind might not be, because for a whole year to feel so normal, then to have these two big reminders in the past 36 hours, it's just been really sobering for me to be like, okay, I'm not behind. Some things are better, but not all things are the same. We're in a period of uncertainty that's going to last a little bit longer. Because gosh, guys, we've only got one more week of school for my kids, and then we've got Christmas vacation. So if you're looking back on this year before we go into Romulan, we are going to do Romulan this year. I'm planning to anyway, fingers crossed. So I haven't been able to do other things, but I've still got a whole lot of pain on a whole lot of concussion. And I would hate to start something and then be like, I'm so concussed, I can't read very much for very long. I've had trouble getting into training peaks and doing things. It's random what I can and can't do, because I'll be fine. It'll feel like for a few hours. And then I guess my brain will be tired. That brain rest comes in and I have to stop whatever it is I'm doing and just lie down and stare at the ceiling. Like even listening or watching TV or listening to things it's too much. But I don't want to disappoint anyone. So I'd rather like wait until a time when I know I'm good than try to start something and not do well with it. So I tell you that to tell you this: you're coached, you are loved, you're winning at life. It's been a rough year. Congratulations on making it through it. But just because you're not where you want to be yet doesn't mean that everybody else is, or that you've done anything wrong, because you're here. And that means you're doing something right by continuing to show up. And I love you and I'm proud of you. I'm sorry for everybody else. I feel like I failed you. I can't remember all the other good news, but I know there was plenty. I would try to come back and put it in the comments here when I remember the other weekly ones that I was going to celebrate for people. But for now, congratulations, Emily Sorensen. And family's like, I don't know what you're talking about. What promotion? Clearly that's a concussion too. But anyway, love you very much. Have a wonderful week. And I will see you next week, the last video session before Romuald before the holidays, and happy Hanukkah to everyone who celebrates. My youngest daughter told me today that she really wants to be Jewish because they get chocolate coins. She's like, Mom, can we do that? I want chocolate coins. I'm like, can we do that? Sure, Violet. Anyway, enjoy your chocolate coins if you get them this time of year. Have a great week, y'all.